When Tamar Braxton leaned across that live platform and dropped the bomb that froze the entire audience, the studio lights had nothing on the ice in her voice. "Now that you're retired, Yandy, I'm his lifeline." Like a last judgment, the words cut throughout the atmosphere. At first, Yandy Smith did not flinch. She simply stared, her eyes wide and her mouth parted in the kind of horror that only occurs when your darkest dread is revealed in front of millions of people. Tamar didn't end there. She continued, telling Yandy that she was tired of playing second string and standing by while someone else reared what she now referred to as her family. Her tone was laced with disdain. The audience let out a gasp. A few others covered their mouths. Before the producers could even cut to the break, others took out their phones. This was not an unsuccessful reunion special. This was a public execution masquerading as a TV show. Yandy was accused by Tamar of using children as weapons, clinging to the ghost of a relationship that had already ended, and refusing to acknowledge that the man she previously called everything had chosen a different lifeline who truly showed up. Each sentence fell more forcefully than the previous one. Yandy's hands began to tremble. Before she could stop it, a single tear escaped, and the camera captured it in vicious high definition. Chaos broke out backstage. In the green room, family members who had come to support one side or the other were abruptly yelling at one another. They were hurling Mendeecees' name around like a live grenade. Some said he anticipated this. Others claimed he was angry and taken aback. Clips of Tamar's takedown quickly went viral on social media, garnering millions of views while the show was still airing. Yandy is done. Tamar just ended her whole legacy in one sentence, one commenter said. However, this is the true query that permeates every group chat and comment area. What knowledge did Tamar possess that enabled her to act out on live television? Was this about money, custody, love, or something deeper that had been going on for months? Because Tamar's final blow was accompanied by a smile that suggested this humiliation was just the beginning, as if she had more receipts and wasn't scared to read them all. As Tamar proclaimed herself the new chapter, Yandy sat there openly bereft of the title she had held for years. The children whose lives are going to be further torn apart sat somewhere in the middle of all that rubble. The live performance was meant to provide answers. Rather, it ignited a conflict that would soon become louder, messier, and much more intimate than anyone observing could have imagined. Now that Yandy AR was retired, the words "I am his lifeline" reverberated throughout the studio and on every device that was broadcasting the thrilling live performance. With Yandy sitting motionless in her seat and the crowd unsure whether to applaud or gasp in fear, the mood changed from tense to plain chaos. She fixed her gaze on Tamar, who was as tall and uncompromising as she had been, waiting for this very moment to release years of pent-up annoyance and bitterness. The host made an effort to return the subject to a more secure topic by bringing up co-parenting and moving on. However, Tamar interrupted him with a pointed gesture and a glance that said she was far from finished. Leaning forward, her voice brimming with conviction, she accused Yandy of withdrawing from the true responsibilities of family life long before there was any public split. She claimed that Tamar had taken over as the steady presence Mendeecees needed to weather the storms of fame, legal issues, and emotional turmoil while Yandy was busy turning their private struggles into content and legal maneuvers. Yen finally spoke up, her voice faltering but growing stronger with each sentence as she retorted that Tamar had no business forcing herself into a family she hardly knew and that this public assault was merely a desperate attempt to gain attention in a world that had already moved past her own days in the spotlight. Smirking at the accusation, Tamar doubled down and revealed what she described as private texts and conversations in which Mendeecees had thanked her for her support during Yandy's absence, concentrating on her own struggles, which frequently caused instability in the children's lives, instead of the safety. Yandy asserted that the live audience was split. While some members shook their heads in shock at the amount of information being revealed on air, others nodded in agreement with Tamar. And with fans sharing their reactions in real time, the internet world grew even more rapidly. Declaring the incident to be the most brutal humiliation in the history of hip-hop and reality, They openly wondered how Mendeecees would react when he watched the video, which was already becoming viral before the show could finish for a break. As Yandy got up from her chair, her body language changed from defensive to confrontational. She accused Tamar of taking advantage of a vulnerable circumstance for her own narrative gain and said that Tamar didn't know anything about her. Her emotions were running high. Sacrifices made in private or the extent Yandy had gone to shield the family from both internal and external influences. Tamar did not retreat. Rather, she defended herself and retaliated evenly. More intimate allegations that the children had suffered more from the ongoing public drama than from any purported absence, and that Yandy's idea of protection resembled control. The host's attempt to signal for producers to step in was clearly uncomfortable. Security guards moved closer to the stage in case the verbal altercation turned physical, but the atmosphere in the room had taken on a life of its own. The moment was made even more shocking by Tamar's framing of her role as a necessary evolution rather than a replacement. She claimed that Mendeecees had found in her the peace and stability that had been missing for too long, and that Yandy needed to accept that her chapter had closed and a new one had begun with someone willing to do the hard work without the camera's rolling Yandy counter. This was true even though both women appeared more focused on landing their verbal blows on physical confrontation. By bringing up past grievances from their common group, implying that Tamar had expressed interest in the matter long before she had any right to, and that this purported humanitarian act was really the most recent example of a pattern of opportunistic behavior that the public was now finally able to see clearly. The family members in the audience were obviously divided. Based on their body language, some seemed to support Tamar, while others appeared prepared to intervene and defend Yandy. This tension spread beyond the stage and into the comment sections, where fans argued over who was correct and who wasn't. In actuality, though, both women revealed enough unfiltered passion and suppressed grudges to make everyone wonder what was really going on behind the headlines that had sparked this heated altercation. Yandy's expression changed from one of anger to one of pain, as if the words were landing on old bruises, as Tamar persisted in pressing her advantage by citing specific instances in which she claimed to have been there for the children during school events and health scares when Yandy was occupied with court or media obligations. Sought to conceal from the public that the live performance, which was supposed to provide a window into healing or at the very least open communication, had instead turned into a battleground where reputations were being destroyed in real time and the stakes were higher than ever since the children were at the center of it. After watching these videos, everyone would eventually have to deal with the public conflict between the ladies in their lives. Viewers at home were divided between those who thought Tomorrow had gone too far and those who thought Yandy had been exposed for the first time in a way that finally made sense of the ongoing custody whispers and relationship rumors swirling around Mendeecees' new chapter. The social media storm was unrelenting, with hashtags about the takedown trending worldwide. There were no traces of death in the argument, escalating as Tamar dealt another blow by implying that Yandy was more concerned with upholding her reputation as the strong, independent woman than with genuinely making room for a new support network that may be advantageous to all parties, particularly the children who required constancy over conflict. Yandy retorted that Tamar's unexpected emergence as the hero was a rewriting of history that disregarded the years of commitment and the personal price Yandy had paid to preserve the family as much as possible. And that consistency was precisely what she had fought for through every court document and public statement. As the two women verbally circled each other, the studio lights seemed to get hotter due to the pressure of the situation. The audience was watching every word, and the producers were frantically trying to decide whether to let it play out or make a hard cut. In the long term, that would simply make the leaked video even more harmful. Tamar seemed like she had more to say, and Yandy was not going to allow her leave this live stage without taking responsibility for the suffering she had just inflicted in front of everyone, so it was obvious that this was not the end of the revelations. And everyone in the room held their breath, waiting to see what new horror 2 would emerge as the tension reached yet another boiling point as Tamar got ready to speak once more. Before Tamar brought up a particular moment when she said she had to step in because Yandy had chosen to attend a high-profile event instead of being by Mendeecees' side during a crucial moment. Yandy retorted that Tamar was fabricating facts to fit her narrative and that the event in question was actually a work obligation she could not avoid without risking everything she had built to provide for the family. The back and forth continued for what felt like hours, even though only minutes had passed on the clock. It was hard for anyone to remain impartial in the face of such blatant charges flying across the stage, and the audience gasped once more as the information became more detailed and intimate. Tamar moved. Others applauded Tamar for revealing Yandy's harmful habits, which they claimed had been concealed beneath her strong woman character for far too long. Tamar dealt another blow by stating that she was now not just the family's lifeline but also the one who would ensure that they continued to move forward without the ongoing upheaval that Yandy appeared to thrive on. And that instead of pursuing a war in which she had already lost the moment, Yandy would graciously retreat if she genuinely cared about the children. Mendeecees prefer tranquility over drama. Tears welled up in Yandy's eyes once more, but this time she didn't try to suppress them like she had told Tamar. That this public humiliation would not alter the fact that she was still their mother and would fight for them until the day she died, and that no one could ever replace what she had created with Mendeecees. Shaking her head, Tamar remarked that was precisely the issue, as the children needed a home free from conditions and public conflicts, and the fighting had to stop. With the audience holding their collective breath and the online comments scrolling so quickly that nobody could keep up with the deluge of thoughts and theories about what would happen next to the family that had already endured so much, the tension in the room was intolerable as the two women stared each other down. With Tamar standing over the wreckage as if she had been waiting years to deliver this precise moment, and Yandy appearing as though the ground had been pulled out from under her in front of everyone. The live show had long since abandoned any pretense of being about healing or insight and had instead turned into a full-scale public execution of Yandy's place in the story. As it appeared like tomorrow might finally be over, she leaned in once more and mentioned that there was still more information that would clarify everything. Yandy braced herself once more, her hands trembling at her sides as she awaited whatever new revelation tomorrow was about to reveal. This was about why Yandy was now retired and why the family had already decided on a different course of action without her. Because nothing felt off bounds at this moment. And everyone in the entertainment industry was watching to see how much more harm could be done before this dramatic and tragic conflict was ultimately put an end to. Then disclosed something else that would push Yandy over the edge completely. Mendeecees had already started altering the practical and legal aspects of the children's lives, such as who could pick them up from school and who was designated as the emergency contact, because he wanted stability. Tamar was the one who provided it without turning every decision into another legal battle or social media post. Yandy appeared to be out of breath, and she accused Tamar of manipulating Mendeecees into making decisions he would never make on his own. However, Tamar maintained her composure and produced printed copies on stage, waving them like evidence in court. She claimed that these were authentic and that Mendeecees had signed them voluntarily following weeks of discussions about how Yandy's frequent altercations were harming the children's mental health. Yandy grabbed the papers from Tamar's hand and scanned them, her face twisting in pain and rage as she realized they looked real. She turned to the host, demanding to know how this was allowed on live television, but the host had lost all control of the segment and could only stare as the confrontation continued. The audience was in complete shock, with some standing up to get a better look at the papers and others shouting that this was crossing every line and that Tamar had no business making. Tamar was out of control and didn't stop there. She continued by saying that the kids themselves had begun to ask for her more frequently since they felt more at ease in her presence and did not have to worry about the next fight or the next time their names would be in the news due to a custody dispute. Yandy sobbed. Tears were running down her cheeks as she told Tamar that she had no right to speak for the kids and that whatever joy they shone around her was a result of their confusion and being pushed in two different directions. Now, the family members in the audience were openly arguing with each other. One side was yelling at Tamar to stop, while the other was telling Yandy to accept that things had changed and that fighting on live television would only make things worse for everyone, especially the children who would watch this clip for the rest of their lives.